Alright, welcome to this video about UML or Unified Modeling Language. This is specifically for the data analysis. So if you're in a role working with data and want to use UML for your work, this is the video for you. But let's dig a little bit into it. Why is it that we even talk about UML? Well, it's because it's something that is relatable in two situations. It's in the situation where you want to gather information and in the situation where you want to communicate a solution. Why is that? Well, most of the time we work with use cases in analytics. We want someone to use the tools, the solutions, or we want to describe how people are using a tool, solution, or a system. In this case, we're talking in the realm of products, or more specifically, data products. We're looking to gather information about how people are doing things. And there it's quite easy to use UML in a way of describing it and getting it validated. So you're sure that what you're presenting and what you're understanding is on the right path. When you've then done a solution or product, data product, a dashboard or a report that's going to be used. Well, how is it going to be used? Well, that's a use case. How does this fit into the organization? Well, we describe it with UML as well, because if they understand the UML notation, which many people intuitively do, and a lot of people also have the training using it, then it's easily adapted within the organization. What does it then consist of? Well, it is a notation, it's a standard notation, and in this introduction video, I'll be looking at these, what is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 categories that we have here. We have the system, which is denoted by a box. We have the use cases, the oval. We have the relationships, the extent, include classic standard relationship or a hierarchy, and then lastly the actors. All of these things are used here. One of the things that I've noted when I work with students on this is that there needs to be a focus on this is not a process description, it's a system description. So it's not that someone does this, then he does that, then he does that, but it is a system within a box where you can do some things, not necessarily in a specific order. If you have order within things, well, then you have your errors to use it. But it's not the core use of it. It is to describe the system and the situation and the options which are available. Let's go through each of them. The actors and the basic structure is that an actor does something. I do a video, so me as an actor is doing a video. That's a use case. So in that sense, I'm using this system to create a video. A stick figure, a straight line, and an oval. If we go into an example for an analyst, well, analysts does tons of things every day, but one of the things that they do is looking at a dashboard where they've gathered data and are presenting it. This dashboard could, for example, be sales records, sales information. The user as salesman could be looking at that. Oh, how far am I on my numbers? Do I need to push more for my customers, or am I okay on track? Can I even relax? Sometimes also the manager will need to access the dashboard. He'll say, okay, how are my salespeople doing? Pull the data out, maybe as a simple CSV or an Excel file. I create a report based on it. So you have these different actors which are using the system, the dashboard view in multiple different ways. Then we add on a system, and if you're an analyst, here I put RStudio, but it could be your Jupyter notebooks, it could be many of the different tools that you use in your everyday analyst life. As an analyst, you will be using, for example, RStudio or Cossack as it's named now, for cleaning data, filtering out errors, converting dates, etc. You'll be creating a model, figuring out is there a relationship between these things, and then you'll test your model. All of these things within your system, in this case RStudio. So that way we encapsulate use cases within systems. If we then move on to relationships, if you've seen some of my other videos, you might have come across the CRISP-DM notation. CRISP-DM stands for Cross Industry Standard Process for Data Mining, which is a standardized process for working with data. Some of the elements within this model, this way of working, is gathering data, understanding the business problem, and creating the model. There's also deployment and testing and so forth, but those are the small dots after it. Each of them are subcategories of the CRISP-DM. In other words, this is a way that you say that you have multiple sections, departments, structures, so you can go at a high level or a lower level, and it might be that some people work with only one of the subcategory use cases, or they work with all of them and then you associate them with the top level. After relationships, you might ask why, what is it, how are we using it? I can draw, I can put lines. First thing is that you identify the system. What is the system that we want to look at? What is it that we want to describe? What is it that we want to figure out about? You identify the actors, the ones who interact with the system, figure out what is it that they're doing, and you identify the relationships. Once in a while, you'll also notice that there was something that a use case that you thought was within the system, but it's actually outside. In that case, you have a potential addition to your system. It might also be that you have a use case within the system that's not being used. Again, potential update for your system. So this way, you can go through and you can identify a system. It could be a dashboard, it could be a standardized report, it could be, well, a new tool which is implemented into your product portfolio. This way, you can figure out who is doing what and how it's going to be used. The last one I'll be looking into the include-exclude relationships. It's these required or optional elements. So if there is, again, you see there is an arrow at the end. There is a linkage from one to another. We want to have something happening if this use case is being done, made, happening. And then we have another use case which is coming up. It could be messaging. Someone is looking up in the numbers and realize there is a discrepancy in our sales numbers. A message goes to the manager, the parent. Another way to look at things are the extension points within use cases. These are the optional triggers. So a use case where there is an option has an extension point. So sometimes this becomes relevant as a use case, but it's not necessarily always available. Maybe it's the warning sign at the top of your dashboard that pops up when your sales numbers are 20% below what's expected. Again, this is where you go back and understand with the business. What is the use case? Are they actually needing this information? Well, then it should be popping up because then they can take the actions based on your system information. Alright, so that's how we extend our use cases. If we're looking into summary. So this is how we extend our use cases with the optional elements. So to summarize, we have our squares, which is our system. We have our ovals, which is our use case. We have the dotted lines, which includes or extends our use cases with optional elements. We have our relationships, the straight line without any arrows. We have the hierarchies. Remember, the relationships and hierarchies. Sometimes people have a tendency of putting arrows on relationships because someone is interacting with something else. So one is the instigator of it. Still, just a line, no arrow. And lastly, the actor. This is me here in this video using the recording system in a use case as recording video. Alright, thank you for watching this small video about the use cases. I hope it's useful and you will stay tuned for more. See you.